Good afternoon. Welcome to the forecast discussion for March 23rd, 2014. It's currently 5:25 p.m. I wanted to wait a little bit to kind of get all the model guidance in, to really break down everything as far as this potential storm or non-storm or biblical proportion storm or whatever you've heard on the media, and really get a chance to kind of dive into all the model guidance. So today, in between doing some other odd jobs around the house, I've been breaking down every model that has come in, even the NAM model guidance. And this video is going to give you a chance to kind of see exactly what we have here as far as the storm potential and what's reality, what isn't, and what to prepare for. So currently this afternoon we're in the upper 30s to lower 40s, much cooler than yesterday as a polar air mass has invaded the region. Colder air is on the way for tomorrow as we have a nice northerly wind. The skies are going to clear out this evening, allowing temperatures to plummet into the lower to mid 20s along the coast and upper teens over the interior. And that unfortunately is going to mean highs tomorrow afternoon in the mid to upper 30s. We should be near 57 degrees right now. So we're clearly in a cold environment once again. And that is what's going to be part of what's going to set up our potential storm. The question has never been whether there's going to be a storm. It's just how close is this storm going to actually be and what's the track? And that's been the debate for some time now. So here we have our temperatures are in place. We're starting to get a little chilly out there. We have some dry air as well in place. Winds are from the northwest around 10 to 20 miles per hour, so it feels a little bit colder, like the mid-30s out there. And over the northern interior, like in northeastern Pennsylvania, where it's in the lower 30s, it feels like the mid to upper 20s. So clearly here comes our cold air. You can see the 23 in New York, is around Elmira, Corning. It's just cold. Very cold air is coming in. So we have the cold air. But do we have everything else in place? Well, let's take a look at all the observations. First of all, on our radar from the National Weather Service, you can see a batch of precipitation exiting off of the mid-Atlantic coast. Much of this is not reaching the ground, but what is reaching the ground is pretty much very light rain, not really a major impact. Once this exits the region, pretty much we'll have skies clearing out and dry conditions for tonight. On the infrared satellite picture, you can see that first disturbance that is going to set up the boundary over the Atlantic and along the Gulf Stream, which is right around here. Okay, this is what's going to set up the thermal gradient to develop our storm. You can see some of the low clouds are starting to exit out of the region. Once these low clouds exit, we'll see our temperatures plummet as skies clear out. So some pretty strong radiational cooling tonight, allowing temperatures to fall into the 20s. So if you're going to be outdoors, bundle up. You're going to need it. Now let's take a look at the water vapor satellite picture. I've been showing this for day after day and showing why I had doubts about this storm hugging the coast or moving far enough west to have a significant major impact on the northern mid-Atlantic. And I was keying on a couple of key factors. One, the progressive nature of the subtropical jet stream. Two, the timing of these disturbances. And three, this upper level low. Now, the basic idea was this. If all the timing worked out, then the fact that there's no blocking in the northern Atlantic won't matter because the phasing would be just right. But what we've seen as we're getting better and better sampling of these disturbances, and especially our storm trucking towards the west coast here, is that while there will be a nice little ridge over the Intermountain West, the timing is all off. So as a result, by the time these disturbances start to phase, this storm is already out in the Atlantic. Now, once it phases, this storm explodes. You have a lot of thermal gradient energy, a lot of thermal gradient, a strong thermal gradient, should I say, setting up over the Atlantic. You have very strong upper level divergence. You have basically everything that you need for a major intensifying winter storm. The only thing that's lacking is a 50-50 low. That would have been key. That would have been a slam dunk. This forecast would have been a slam dunk. The only question would have been as far as the boundary layer temperatures and how much snow actually accumulates. But the fact that there's no blocking here is why I said look east. Because if the timing is all off, this storm has nothing to lock it into the coast. It could intensify, it could definitely slow down, but there's nothing to keep this subtropical disturbance that is trucking along the southern plains right now to slow down to phase close enough to the coast to explode along the coast. If you had that blocking there, this would have been an easy slam dunk forecast. Now, granted, saying all that, we still have to watch these disturbances because if the timing sets up just right, then let's say instead of this storm cutting up off of the North Carolina coast and then kind of pulling out here and pulling back in, instead of doing that, if the phase is early enough, it could do one of this, where it tracks right over, let's say, about 150 miles off the New Jersey coast. That would lead to a major winter storm. You'd have cold air in place. You had very heavy snow. It'd be a mess around here. Absolute mess. Because even with the higher sun angle, the lifting would be strong enough to overcome that. And so this would have been a very nasty storm. But without that blocking and the way that these disturbances are moving, this disturbance, this low pressure system, first is going to track too far east before it starts to get captured by the polar disturbances and really start intensifying. Those of you over southeastern New England, like around Boston, towards the Cape, Nantucket, this is going to be a really nasty storm for you. I would prepare now. If you have the option to leave, let's say, Nantucket, you might want to consider it with a 948 millibar low. That's pretty strong, and those are going to be some strong winds out there. So this is definitely going to be a nasty storm. It's just going to be a little bit too far east for the Philadelphia and New York City metropolitan area to have a major impact. So what I did this afternoon is pull up all the models, even the NAM model guides. I'm going to show you that. And we're going to kind of step through this here. Now on the GFS model guidance, again, for tomorrow, cold tomorrow, temperatures in the mid to upper 30s for highs, bundle up. Now on Tuesday morning, here comes our subtropical disturbance. Here's our low pressure system out here. Here's our polar disturbance right here and here. And what's going to happen is that these are going to interact. You can see we have plenty of moisture, we have cold air in place. See our storm starting to percolate down here. Now look what happens as we move from 48 to 60 hours in the forecast. You see how this disturbance is way out here? Notice how all the pressures are falling way out here? Boom. This is when the storm starts to intensify. But look at the way that the whole pattern is set up. Yeah, it's going to a negatively tilted trough, but if you want to track right along the coast here, this trough has to be back here, not here. Because it's out here, it intensifies too late, it develops too late, too far east, and as a result, your storm's out here, and all your heavy precipitation is over the Atlantic rather than over the New Jersey coast. And you can see very light precipitation overhead. Now, granted, ahead of this, on Tuesday night, you see this little trough here? This is what's called an inverted trough. And we're going to have to keep an eye on this because these little troughs and these little kinks here in the atmosphere, stretching in the atmosphere, can be very tricky to forecast. And sometimes they can surprise you. That's why I'm going to show you the NAM model guidance. It's the worst case scenario, but I wanted to put it out there just so you're prepared. I don't think we're going to see much of it, but I did incorporate it into the forecast. So on Tuesday night, I think what we're going to see is a lot of rain, snow showers going over to snow showers. Remember, while 850 millibars is plenty cold enough for snow, the lower levels of the atmosphere are not, because on Tuesday afternoon, we're going to see highs in the upper 30s to lower 40s over the interior, lower to mid 40s along the coast. So it's going to be a little bit too warm to see accumulating snow on Tuesday afternoon as this starts to develop. But by Tuesday evening and overnight between, let's say, 7 p.m. to 1 a.m., which is this time period here, you could get some precipitation here, maybe a trace to as much as 2 inches of snow. Some people are going to top off at 3 inches, but I think that's going to be an isolated threat, and it's mostly going to be on grassy, cold surfaces. So if you're on Long Island, let's say from central Long Island on west, look for anywhere from a trace to 2 inches of snow, isolated 3 inches possible in some very isolated heavy bands. For eastern Long Island and eastern Connecticut, that's where it gets a little tricky. Someone's going to get about 4 or 5 inches of snow out of this because it's just going to be close enough to be into that steady area of precipitation. So we're going to have to watch out for that. I'm not going to put out a snow map yet until tomorrow morning because I want to get a little bit more data from 0Z. But if there's going to be an area that's going to have more than 3 inches of snow out of this in our forecast area from Connecticut and eastern Long Island on west, it's going to be eastern Long Island and eastern Connecticut, especially northeastern Connecticut, because you're going to be very close to the heaviest precipitation, which is going to be focused over southeastern Massachusetts, Rhode Island, out towards Nantucket, out towards portions of the Cape. It's going to get very nasty out there. Now, in terms of the wind between Tuesday night and Wednesday morning, this low pressure system is going to explode. There's no doubt about that. And as a result, with that rapid intensification, what you're going to see on Tuesday are winds from the northeast rapidly increasing, looking about 15 to 25 miles per hour, increasing to 20 to 30 miles per hour on Tuesday evening. The strongest winds, I think, stay off the coastal plain. But if you have any boating interests out there on the New Jersey coastal waters, bring it in. Don't bother being out there on Tuesday night. It's going to be absolutely ugly. Do not do that because you're going to see wind gusts potentially push over 60 miles per hour. It's not going to be pretty out there. Let me be incredibly blunt on this. So over the coastal waters, eastern Long Island, very windy. Eastern Long Island, you can easily see gusts over 50 miles per hour as the storm is cranking off to your east and rapidly intensifying. And on Wednesday, the winds back to the northwest. So on Tuesday evening is going to be your best potential, I think, for coastal flooding because the winds are coming from the northeast and then backing towards the northwest. So during that time period on Tuesday evening is going to be your best potential to see some coastal flooding. But I think it's going to be minor because it's short-lived and we're not in the worst conditions as far as the moon and all that. So it'll be a little rough out there, but it's not going to be the end of the world either. So the storm exits by Wednesday afternoon. We have a northwesterly wind. Any type of water that had invaded from coastal flooding will be driven out under a northwesterly wind, and then we dry out. And Wednesday is a chilly day. Wednesday morning, looking at temperatures falling into the mid to upper 20s, so definitely cold enough for snow, and then rebounding into the upper 30s to lower 40s for highs in the afternoon. And then thereafter, it warms up very nicely. We have more of a zonal flow take shape. We have a cold front that will be moving through by next Friday with some scattered showers. I don't really see this as a severe event of any type of nature, but just a zonal pattern taking hold, giving us a nice break all the way through next weekend with just a threat for rainfall. That's it. No snowfall, none of that nature. Temperatures, Thursday, mid to upper 40s for highs. Friday, upper 40s to lower 60s, lows in the mid to upper 30s. Saturday and Sunday, highs in the upper 50s to mid 60s most likely over southwestern New Jersey, lows in the lower to mid 40s. So we kind of move back towards near normal conditions with a nice benign zonal flow once this storm leaves. I wanted to show you the other model guides to kind of give you an idea that they're all pretty much in agreement that from Tuesday morning through Wednesday morning or Wednesday afternoon, this storm intensifies a little bit too late. Again, here's a subtropical, here's a polar, it starts to intensify. Once it phases, there comes our storm. Here's our inverted trough that we have to watch. We're all pretty much on the same page here, which is that the worst conditions remain out over the Atlantic, but we have to keep an eye on the inverted trough just in case. And for the European model guidance, same scenario, okay? Same situation. The ensembles are the same. The Canadian ensemble model guidance are the same. Everything's east. And the reason why it's east, again, there's no blocking here. If you had a nice 50-50 low, nice little upper level low, like this upper level low, let's say if that was here, hey, game on. This would be a monster storm. But that's not there. And remember, when it comes to winter storms like this, everything has to be just right. So finally, I want to show you the NAM model guidance here. And this is the only thing I'm concerned about here. Because inverted troughs can be a real pain in the neck to forecast for, okay? Now again, this is from the Penn State UL website, so it's easy to find. Now, the 18Z model guidance is nowhere near as impressive, but it's the 18Z model guidance, and I don't like using it because it doesn't have a very great track record. That's why I'm going to wait for 0Z to make any type of snow maps. But I wanted to just kind of touch on this here. This is the worst case scenario. All right, what you have here is a situation where you have strong transfer of energy from the polar and a phasing of the subtropical, and this is a surface reflection of that transfer of energy. And what happens is that the atmosphere is being stretched, okay, and you're seeing this kind of stretching with the height lines here at 850 and 700 millibars. And you can see that at the surface, and that stretching leads to very strong lifting to the north of this line. So what you end up with is a swath of very heavy precipitation. Now, this is incredibly difficult to forecast for. And half the time this doesn't even happen. And I don't think it's going to happen. But I wanted to show you it. That way you know that there is a possibility. It's a very slight possibility. Everything would have to line up just right to have this set up. Again, a near perfect thread the needle type situation here. And most of the mesoscale models do not support this outcome. But I wanted to show you it just so you know what the threat is and what could change in the forecast. If this inverted trough sets up just right, then we're going to have to watch out. But right now, I don't see that as being a threat. Well, that is the forecast discussion for today. Of course, I'm your meteorologist, Stephen DiMartino. Follow the latest weather information at nynjpaweather.com and nynjpaweather on Twitter, Facebook, Google+, and LinkedIn. As always, stay safe out there.